Hi, ladies. We are here again with another Wellness Wednesday. And today we're talking about habits. And we're talking about how to build in habits that last. I've got a special guest today, and it's Tamsin Astor. And Tamsin is a chief. Hold on, I've got to look because I know I'm crap at remembering things. Chief habits scientist of yoga coaching. And she has been known to give her clients tools that shift their mindset, organize their vision, and improve their habits to create efficient, productive business and life. So welcome, Tamsin.
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
All the way from, where are you?
Cleveland, Ohio, but you can probably tell my accent is not Midwestern. I'm a Londoner.
All good. So Tamsin, tell us a bit about, why you do what you do. What made you focus on the habits?
So when one of my kids got cancer, which was pretty sucky, he was 2. He's now 16 and way taller than me. But when he was 2, he got cancer, and I also had a 4-year-old. And I went into kind of massive overwhelm where I was serving everybody else's needs first. And I got terrible insomnia, and I put on weight and I lost weight, and I got hives and allergies. And every single doctor I went to ran all these tests, couldn't figure anything out. I went to sleep clinics. I was tested for celiac, all the things, right? And all of them came back negative. So they just wrote me prescriptions and said, here, take a sleeping pill, take this thing for your diet, take some IB. And I just was like, look, I'm not anti-Western medicine, but I'm not going to start taking a whole load of drugs when there's no obvious cause for it, because you're suppressing the symptoms, but there might be some really underlying cause that we haven't established yet. And that to me didn't feel like a logical step. And at that point, I'd left academia and was teaching yoga. And so I discovered Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, and it's kind of like traditional Chinese medicine, right? And a lot of it is grounded in this idea of what's called your dinacharya, which is your daily habit cycle, right? Like, when are you eating? What are you eating? What time are you going to bed? When are you meditating? Are you taking care of yourself, your mind and body? And I realized that I'd spent the last 8-9 years serving everybody else. I was taking care of my husband. I was taking care of my clients. I was taking care of my kids. I was taking care of the dog, everything before me. And so once I started putting all of those habits in place, going to bed at the same time every day, getting up at the same time every day, exercising at the same time every day, suddenly all of my side effects went away. All of the things that I was struggling with went away. And I was like, wow, it could have been that easy. I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, like, the answer is easy. The work's hard, right? And so that's how I got into helping people with habits, was me realizing myself that I, needed some support around that. And that, in the Western world, and this is the bit that's really interesting to me, wellness and sickness is all to do with, do you have disease, right? So to be healthy in the West means an absence of disease. In the East, being healthy means, are you seated in the self? So it's not just, do you not have high blood pressure, or are you sleeping, or whatever it is. It's also like, are you happy? Are you waking up every day and doing stuff that brings you joy? Are you doing the right kind of work in the world? Are you in the right kind of relationships, right? Because that was the next big thing for me, is I realized, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm sleeping well and all of that things. Had a 3rd kid because, why not, add to the craziness, right? Got certified in Ayurveda, got certified as an Ayurvedic health coach, got certified as an executive coach, launched 2 businesses, all the things, but I still wasn't really happy. So it was this kind of this constant striving. So that's how I ended up doing what I do. It was me going, shit's not working. What can I find to help me? Oh, that works. Oh, that works really well. I'm gonna get trained in that. I'm gonna start doing it myself. I'm gonna start helping clients. Okay, hang on, this piece is missing here. Mindset. I need to mindset. Oh, I'm gonna get trained in mindset. Add that into it, right?
Cool. So it's been a bit of a journey then, Tamsin.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. So going back to habits, this is really interesting how you've started to develop probably a long time now, made that change. So how can people start to develop a habit?
So, one of the things that I'll tell people about changing habits and making habits that, work for themselves is, first, you have to figure out whether you're doing the right kinds of habits, right? Because so often in society, and I talk about this in my book a lot too, The Force of Habit, Unleash Your Power by Developing Great Habits, is that we get should on, right?
Yeah.
Society says, you're a woman, you should have a flat stomach, right? You're a woman, you should have perky boobs. You're a woman, you should put the dinner on the table every night. You're a woman, you know, all of the should, right? You're a woman, anti-aging. Like, the F is up with anti-aging. Of course, we're all going to age. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, right? Society shoulds all over us, right? Yeah. And then, our culture shoulds on us, like, where we specifically live. Maybe our religion does. Maybe our partners do. Maybe our parents do. Maybe our business. Like, there's so many places where we get all of this stuff of being told, right? So one of the first things I'll say to people with their habits is, is this a habit that really serves your big life vision, or are you just doing it because you feel like you should do it, right? And the thing about some habits is that they can feel difficult to get going. Like, if you fall off the exercise wagon, which a lot of people do on a regular basis, even though we all know exercise is important, we fall off the exercise, and that's one of those ones where, yes, it's a good thing to do, but if you can tie your why, it makes it much easier, right? So why do I exercise? I'm hypermobile and I've herniated a disc. So I exercise so that my body works, right? I exercise every day because it gives me endorphins, makes me feel good. That's why I exercise. I exercise every day because emotions are energy in motion. And if I don't move them through my system, they get lodged and trapped in my system, right? So I want to move my body every day because I want, when my kids have kids, to be an active grandmother. When I'm 80, I want to still be able to hike and do headstands and not be like, getting out of my chair with a walker, right? So that ties my exercise to my bigger why, right?
Now, I totally get exactly what you mean. So it's almost like when you're putting your goals together, isn't it? It's like you've got your big why and the reason why you want to have that outcome. So it's still the same thing when you're trying to establish a habit, is to, have your big why as to why you want to build in that new habit. So makes complete sense. So how do your beliefs impact on you changing those habits?
Oh, they're huge, right? Again, because, that's the sort of mindset piece, right? It's like, how do we speak to ourselves? Like when we think about like imposter syndrome, which is much more prevalent with women than with men, right? Negative self-talk, right? And then also all of Dr. Brené Brown's work around, like the shame, and the way we limit ourselves, right? So our beliefs are really important, right? So when we think about the way the brain works, what you think, you say, you do, what you do, you become, right? And sometimes, we can try and change the beliefs, but it can be really hard. So sometimes I'll say to people, if you're, and doing that mindset work is really, really key, right? Like rewiring your brain. And that's one of the great things we know about the brain now, right? Is that you can rewire the brain. We can change our brains through using our minds, right? We can. But sometimes you have to take action, and the taking action is what leads to the belief. Sometimes you can sit there and you can go, I can lift 50 pounds over my head, on a bench press. I can walk 5 miles without, being in pain or getting tired. I can, earn enough money, save enough money to hike up Machu Picchu when my kid graduates college or high school or whatever, right? So sometimes, you're doing that mental work, you're changing your mindset, sometimes though, you have to take that action. You just have to start walking. You just have to start lifting the weights and the doing of it, right? So it's that feedback loop, right?
So it's really a lot about like what you say to yourself a lot of the time. If you're constantly saying, I can't do this, or I can't do that, I haven't got time to do this, I haven't got time to do that, then that you're just bigging up that belief. Basically, you're telling
Totally.
you're telling yourself, yeah, I can't do it, and you're never going to actually do it. But actually telling yourself, yes, I can do it, or even if like that it's going to be the hardest thing ever, if you constantly tell yourself something positive about being able to get to that, that change, then you're gonna be more likely to get there.
Right. And sometimes it's about taking a really small step. Right. So, you could there's some stuff that's come out, in your audience might be familiar with the idea of like a micro habit. Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll say to people, just do the smallest thing.
Exactly.
Just do this, and that will cultivate that belief in yourself, right? So if you're trying to cultivate like a daily exercise practice, putting your sneakers and your leggings and your sports bra, right, on the floor. So when you get out of bed in the morning, it's right there, right? And the micro habit is for the first day, you just put the clothes on.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I'm going to commit to is putting on my leggings, my sports bra, t-shirt, and running shoes, right? That's all I'm going to commit to today. Next day I'm going to maybe commit to that and walking around the block, right? Little steps.
Exactly. And it's definitely, it's like a progress goal, isn't it? It's the same thing as a progress goal. What can I do in order to get to the big thing that I want to get to? So what are the little steps in between before I get to that step?
Absolutely.
So definitely, yeah,
absolutely.
definitely using that. So how can people start to release these old beliefs? Because these old beliefs can like batter you down and completely make you like not actually do it, or you start doing it, which most people do, and then that little niggly old belief just comes back and starts knocking you out, and you just like, oh, what's the point? I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. So the first thing I say to people is awareness, right? Are you aware, right? And so I'm a huge fan of journaling because, 95% of our actions are driven by those unconscious, subconscious programs, right? Beliefs that we have. So one of the first things I'll say to people is you need to get the awareness so that you can catch when you're going back into one of those spirals again, right? So the first step is, are you aware? So what I'll say to people is I'll give them a journaling tool. And there's I did a journaling certification a few years ago, and one of the tools that is really helpful for that is to and it's really hard and people resist it. And I actually taught a workshop this weekend, and I could see it was a live one, and I could see everybody kind of sitting there when I said it, and like as they were doing it, they would so you write a list of 1 to 100 down the side of your page, right, which might be in your journal like 4 pages, and then you 100 reasons why I, or 100 things I, and you dial in on the thing you're trying to. So what are 100 reasons why I don't exercise? And you do not get your butt out of that chair until you've filled that 100 reasons. The reason to do that many is that the first 10 or 20 are all obvious ones. Oh, I'm hungover. I didn't get enough sleep. I ate, shitty carbs for dinner, and I feel bloated and horrible. And I don't, so you get through all the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
Then you start to peel it back, and the stuff that's buried starts to come out. And the point of doing something like this is that you might, and it's okay to repeat yourself, so you might go back over it and see 10 times I wrote, I'm embarrassed to be seen in the gym with a wobbly belly, or whatever your thing, whatever the thing is that you were not aware that comes up when you do something like that. So the point is you get really deep. And then once it's all out, you take a step back, you look at it. And, if you're like me, you have like a massive pot of colored markers on your desk and you go through and you start theming them. So you go, oh, this is about time. I'm not organizing my time effectively. That's why I'm not doing it. I'm not putting it on the calendar. I'm not giving myself, oh, these ones are about the way I talk to myself. These are practical issues. Like I can't get there because I'm looking after my kids, or there's not enough time after leaving work. And, or I haven't, I don't like my gym, or I don't like whatever it is, right? And so you start to take, there's 5 or 6 categories that you can organize those 100 things into. So awareness. And then once you figure out the awareness, you've got some places where you can start taking action.
So once you figured out those awareness, yeah, then like it's like you've got a deep understanding of where you're at, yeah, and what might be actually sabotaging you, because a lot of those are self-sabotaging behaviors, which we all do. Do you know what I mean? At different times. And some of them might be things that are just like, you don't really need to be thinking about that, really. It's just like you've just made it up and it's just there in your mind. Do you know what I mean? So it's actually quite a good exercise, because I used to do this exercise with clients, but I didn't used to do about 20, when 20 still was hard. So 100 would be massively completely hard. You know what I mean? And like just thinking about why someone wants to lose weight. Do you know what I mean? And you're writing down the reasons why to lose weight. No, that's really interesting. So why do you need to take empowered action to change your habits?
Because our brains are agnostic, and they are going to create habits regardless of your intentionality and your input anyway, right? Your brain doesn't care. Creating habits, creating habit sequences, creating routines, creating automation is what your brain is designed to do for a couple of reasons. One, it's energy efficient. And two, it frees up your prefrontal cortex so that you can have more time for joy and pleasure and fun and activism and all the other things that you want to do in your life, right? So the brain is going to create habits regardless of whether or not you choose your habits. Right? So that's the big thing to know. So given that awareness, your brain's just going to do it anyway. You might as well go, well, I'm going to create habits that serve my big vision. I'm going to create habits that are going to make my life happy and fun. I'm going to create habits that are going to help me be successful, right? I'm going to create habits that are going to help me have big impact.
Yeah, definitely. That's so interesting. So yeah, you might as well just go ahead and create those habits.
Right.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who was gonna, like, you know, take their first steps now to take the information that you've just said? What would you say would be the first steps that they would take?
So I think one of the biggest things I'd start by saying is, if you are feeling like you're in a state of overwhelm, and so you're struggling to know, what is my next decision, right? What should I prioritize? Take a piece of paper or take your journal and write down all the things that are swirling, right? Because the other point of journaling is that you're creating some space between all the stuff that's keeping you awake at 3 a.m, right? Right. So get it all out on the page and look at it, you know, and you go, this kid, this job, this partner, this friend, my mom, my dad, my home, you know, my dog, the leaking roof, whatever it is, like, get it all out on the page. Get it all out on the page. Look at it. And then start to make some decisions about how you can change your behavior in relation to the things that are important to you, right? So once you've got all that stuff out on the page, look at it and go, you know, that's something that I don't need to be dealing with now. Like, it's not that it's not important, but it's not a right now priority, right? So as you dump it all out and you look at it and you think, my doctor's told me I've got high blood pressure. My doctor told me my cholesterol is getting scary. My kids always tell me that I'm really snappy and I've got a short temper. And my husband keeps saying to me, we haven't had sex in, you know, whatever it is, you know, whatever those things are that you're looking, you're like, oh, well, shit, that's the stuff I need to be concentrating on. Right. So get it out there, look at it and, you know, and think about what's important to you, you know, and you can take that broader context of, what are my values? What drives me? What's important to me? Right. So for me, my biggest driver, my biggest value is freedom. And that's freedom in your mind, in your body, in your heart, right? Financial freedom. I make all my choices about how I spend my money, my time, and my energy to help people in the world be free, right? Whether it's in the US fighting the pro-life movement because, you know, not having access to abortions is misogyny, right? In my view, right? So thinking about that. So look at your list and think, this is really important to me in terms of the way I think about the world. And this is really important to me in terms of my life right now, right? So you look at that and then you go, okay, so my boss has told me that I haven't got to work on time for the last 3 months and they're watching me and they notice that. That's a priority. I need to keep making that money so that I can feed my kids, so that I can pay my mortgage, right? Right. If you look at that list, you're like, okay, that's something I need to deal with right now. So then you go, okay, I have to be at work at 9. It takes 10 minutes to walk to the tube. It takes 20 minutes, back it up and create a morning routine that is going to work for you. And the reason to be really sort of in that initial piece requires effort, right? And requires time. But in the long run, it reduces your decisions, right? Because we make 35 to 1,000 decisions every day. If you can create a morning routine that you don't have to think about because you go into automation, it's not going to be 30. So if you go, okay, alarm goes off at 6. Between 6 and 6:20, I meditate for 10 minutes and I do 10 minutes of stretching. And then I sit with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea from 6:20 to 6:30 and write down, the things I'm grateful for, all the shit that woke me up at 2 a.m, process that argument I had with somebody and drink, and have, okay. So I spend the first 30 minutes of my day on me, not on Instagram, not on dealing with the needs of anybody else in my family or life. I'm going to spend the first 30 minutes of the day on my needs, centering my mind, moving my body, right? Then 6:30, I get up the kids, we eat breakfast, blah, 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 right? And I get to work by 9, right? So start by figuring out what's important, dump it all out, make a decision about what's important, about what you need to do right now, and then create a plan.
Brilliant. Yes. Great. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you. That's exactly what they need to do. Cool. So Tamsin, what would you tell a younger self, a younger you self about habits?
Oh, that's a good question, Jackie. I think I would say sleep, eat, exercise, relationship with self and others. So what I used to call the healthy sex habits, right? Prioritize your sleep. Sleep is so important.
Yeah.
Prioritize eating food that is good for you. Eat whole foods, right? Exercise every day. And then work on your relationship with yourself. How do I talk to myself? How do I treat myself? Do I value myself? When I make decisions, do I follow through? Because when you follow through on the things that are important to you, you create self-trust, right? If you say, it's really important to me that this doesn't happen, and then you let that happen, you're letting that boundary be violated and you're damaging your self-trust, right? So relationship with self is so important. And then relationship with others. Like, if you say it's really important to me that people don't violate my trust or don't share information about me without me checking it first, and somebody does that and you don't do anything about it, you don't call them out, right? What does that mean for you and how you show up in the world, right? Right. So for me, like, it's that freedom thing. When I see, if somebody makes a racist comment, a misogynistic comment, a transphobic comment, I'm committed to always calling it out, because for me, that goes against my principles and values of freedom. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
So be really, really clear about that. And so that's what I would say, stepping back. I'd go, make sure you get to bed, women, eat green shit every day, move your body every day, treat yourself with love and kindness and respect, and be really clear about what you are willing to accept and what you will give to others.
Great. So your younger self is thinking, wow, thank you, Tamsin.
Why didn't you visit me 25 years ago, woman? That's what she's thinking. She's like, Christ, it's too bloody slow.
Cool. So Tamsin, tell viewers where they can find you. And then let me know if you've got a little freebie for my audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm on Facebook a lot. So come hang out with me on Facebook. I've got a group called Fabulous Habits for Conscious Leaders where I go live every Tuesday. I do Tea with Tamsin at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 9 p.m. British time, GMT. And then I've got a freebie that's 10 mistakes people make when trying to change their habits. And if you sign up for that, you'll get into my newsletter and you'll get some other fun freebies that connect in with that. So I would love for you to join that and join my community and start thinking about how to create a life that you love. Take charge of it, because you've only got one, unless you believe in reincarnation, and you might come back as a gnat, or a mosquito, right? Rather than the fabulous freaking human that you are this time around, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Tamsin. So, ladies, that's all from Tamsin. She said where you can find her. I will pop her freebie in the comments of this live, and I will see you next week for Wellness Wednesday. Jackie Grant, granting you better health and fitness.